Hi everyone, I'm Haley and today I'm making the famous Levain Bakery double dark chocolate chip cookies. This is not my first time to make copycat Levain Bakery cookies. I've actually made the chocolate chip walnut cookies as well, and you can check out that video right up there. Those cookies were pretty popular, and so I thought it would be nice to share how to make the chocolate version of those cookies. So these are like dark chocolate cookies, and then you can use semi-sweet or dark chocolate chips. So it's double chocolate. It's the ultimate cookie for anybody who loves chocolate. I'm excited to make these. The last ones I made were really good, and I'm hoping these will be too. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is mix together all of our dry ingredients. So I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and make sure that when you're measuring your flour, you spoon it into the measuring cup and you level it off, or you can also weigh your flour. That way you don't pack in too much. Just putting that in a medium-sized bowl. And I also have half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of cake flour. And cake flour is pretty easy to find, but if you don't have it on hand, you can also make it at home, and I will put how to do that in the description box. It's really easy. All you need is some flour and cornstarch. Then I also have 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And I'm gonna mix those all together. Alright, today I'm going to be using my stand mixer Sir Whisking tin to help me make these. And we're going to start by creaming the butter and the sugar. So I've got 1 1/4 cups of salted butter, and I'm going to put that in the mixer. Ooh. Okay, there we go. And I also have 1 cup of granulated sugar. I love the way it looks when granulated sugar pours. And 1 cup of packed dark brown sugar. Ooh, that's a little bit more messy. All right, and I'm gonna beat that together until it's smooth and combined. And when you're done mixing your sugar and your butter, it's gonna be really thick, like cookie dough thick, but you still want it to be smooth and combined. Next, I'm going to add 2 large eggs one at a time, and my eggs are cold. There we go. There we go. And I'm gonna beat it in. And when your first egg is completely mixed in, add in the second egg. Ooh, okay. There we go. I got it in. And I'm gonna beat that one in as well. But don't forget to wash your hands after you touch the raw eggs. Once my eggs are mixed in, I'm gonna add in 1/3 cup of unsweetened dark cocoa powder. And I'm using Hershey's dark cocoa powder, by the way. I'm just gonna sprinkle it all in there all at once. There we go. And warning, you will need to scrape down your bowl a lot while you're mixing this in, because it's cocoa powder. It likes to stick to the sides. All right, I'm just going to stir that in. And once the cocoa powder is mixed in, and I'm gonna add my dry ingredients all at once. And I'm just gonna start by pulsing in my flour. And you will see that after some time, it'll eventually all come together to a cohesive dough. And once the flour is mixed in, I'm gonna take it off of my stand mixer because we're gonna stir the chocolate chips in by hand. All right, so I have 3 1/2 cups of dark chocolate chips, and I'm just gonna pour those in and then stir it around. All right, so these cookies are very special because they are 6 ounces. They're giant, massive cookies. So I have a kitchen scale right here that I'm going to weigh mine on. I want to make sure they're all 6 ounces. And then I also have a pan, and I've lined it with parchment paper so that the cookie dough doesn't stick to the bottom. And I'm just gonna weigh out each of my cookie dough balls and then stick them in my pan. Right, make sure that when you turn on your kitchen scale, you press the reset button. That way it's not weighing your plate as well. And you're just gonna take a big old glob of cookie dough. This is probably way too much. I'm just gonna see. But the great thing about it is you can just add it all, and then you can take some away. I need to take a lot more away. A little bit more. Perfect. And also try not to shape the cookie dough too much. You don't want to shape it. It's supposed to be kind of rustic looking. And you definitely don't want to use a cookie scoop. And if you use a cookie scoop, then just make sure that you I know this sounds really wrong, but make it not smooth. Make it not perfect. Like, the whole point of using a cookie scoop is to make it look right. But there's no way to make these cookies look right. They're just supposed to look a little messy. So I've got my very misshapen ball of cookie dough, and I'm just gonna set that in my pan and keep forming cookie dough balls with the rest of this. This should make about 8 giant 6-ounce cookies, and once you've got all of your cookie dough balls shaped, we're going to cover it with plaster cap and stick them in the fridge to chill for about 30 minutes. All right, I finished weighing out all of my cookie dough balls, and if you don't have a kitchen scale, then you can also use a 3/4 cup scoop and it'll be pretty close. But just make sure, once again, that you're not trying to shape it too much. And after you wrap it in plastic wrap, then I'm gonna stick these in the fridge to chill for about 30 minutes. We just don't want them to be super melty when they go in the oven, because otherwise they'll just get thin instead of keeping their nice, tall, thick cookie shape. 30 minutes in the fridge, go. Okay, my cookie dough has been chilling for 30 minutes, and now it's time to bake these. I'm going to bake mine on an ungreased cookie sheet, and you don't want to bake too many at a time, so I'm just going to bake about 4, or you can do 5, but these are going to spread, and they're already really massive, so you can't do as many as you would do with normal cookies. And now it's time to bake them. My oven is preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm gonna bake these starting at 5 minutes, and then they might need a couple more minutes, but we're just gonna check on them because you don't want them to get too brown. The point is for them to still be a little bit gooey in the center. So you'll know when they're done when the top is not glossy and it kind of forms a crust, and the tops, the edges should be a little bit crispy and the top should be a little bit crispy, but they are gonna look slightly underbaked. You don't wanna bake them till they're fully baked because that is not what this cookie recipe is for. If you're not a big fan of the crispy gooey cookie, then there are lots of other cookie recipes that you can check out in my cookie playlist. But today we're making some nice gooey cookies. And if you're baking these in a convection oven, then you're going to want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees and bake them for the same amount of time, 5 to 7 minutes. These are going in the oven now. And voila, my cookie is done. I've finished baking it, and yes, it is one cookie because this was actually a remake. Well, a rebake, because I didn't remake the cookie dough, but I did have to rebake a separate cookie because my first batch of cookies got a little bit too thin because they ended up sitting out at room temperature for longer than I expected. But for this one, I made sure that I didn't get it out of the fridge until right before I put it in to bake it. And it worked because it's very thick like it's supposed to be, and it's crispy on the edges, and it's actually still soft, so it's gonna be good. And this is why chilling your cookie dough is very, very important, because this is what happens when you do not chill your cookie dough. It's very thin and large cookie, and this is actually after I squished in the edges to make it more circular because they spread absolutely everywhere. And then this is what it looks like when you bake it straight out of the fridge after being chilled. It's very nice and thick. But if you don't care about getting the thick Levain Bakery look, then I would say you can skip the chilling of the dough because these turned out good still. They tasted good. They looked fine, they just didn't look the same. And they kind of have more of an even texture all around. They're not crispy and gooey at the same time. But I do definitely recommend chilling the dough because it's very rewarding to see it in the end, and it tastes very good too. This is what it's like if you eat it straight out of the oven, because we're actually supposed to let it cool down for 30 minutes after you take it out of the oven. This is a very important step so that it can completely finish baking. It's like part of the baking time. That would be like if you skipped putting it in the oven. So you cannot skip letting it cool on the pan for at least 30 minutes. I know, all right? It's a problem. I need to wash my hands really quick. I'll be right back. No, just let me rinse them. All right, it looks good, it feels good, but now it's time to see what it's like on the inside. This is the ultimate cookie test. Oh my gosh, that's so chocolatey and gooey. Now it's time for the taste test. If I can pick it up, I can. That's so good. It's so good. I mean, I can taste the brown sugar too. And I think the brown sugar makes a really big difference when you're making cookies. It just has such a great flavor. And the chocolate chips are really good. Like, they're dark, but not too dark to where it's super bitter. Crispy, gooey, chocolatey. If you love any of those things, you will love this cookie. Well, thank you so much for baking with me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this recipe with all of your friends, because I know they are going to love it. And I want everybody to be able to have delicious cookies. And I'll see you in the next video.